Hey, ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian, or Aiden. Either way, I am still your host, and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of ooky, spooky, scary stories. Y'all, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back. If you're new to the show, welcome to the Susto fam. How are y'all doing? I'm doing okay. It's month. I don't know off the top of my head of quarantine, but I'm doing all right, and I hope you are too. And glad to have you here, newcomers and regulars. I don't know if you all are following Susto on social media. If you're not, make sure to do that. Facebook and Instagram at Susto Podcast, so you can get any and all updates on the show. You can also submit your own stories or spooky content through there. But I made a post on the Susto social medias about the Patreon. So if you didn't hear on last episode, the Patreon is live. It's active right now. If you all have not signed up for it, I encourage you to consider it at least. I have some really exciting things going already for it. So just to kind of go over the tiers with you, there's 3 of them. There's Susto Fam, there's Ghoul Friends, and then there's Best Ghoul Friends. And there's different perks for each of those. So if you want to go to the Patreon, that's patreon.com/Susto Podcast, you get all these different perks. One of them is actually a shout out on the show and on the social media. So really quick, I want to give a shout out to my patrons so far. Thank you, April, Spooky Lou, Alejandra, Rachel, Liza. Thank you all so much for being active patrons. I'm so excited to get you all your goodies. I was just waiting for some like mailing supplies basically, but I'm so excited because as soon as you sign up, even for the base tier, which is Susto Fam, tier 1, you get a Susto sticker, which is just a regular sticker that anybody can buy. It's $3 if you're not a patron, but once you sign up, you get that sticker, you get your recognition on the show once a month, and you have early access to episodes. So if you are a patron, you're probably listening to this on Wednesday because the show comes out 24 hours in advance if you're a patron. If not, you might be listening to it on a Thursday or whenever, but just a heads up if you didn't know. For tier 2, you get all those tier 1 benefits, and you also get a handwritten note once a month from me, just giving you a little thank you, or maybe just a joke, or I'm not exactly sure what I'll put in there, but I will be sending you a note once a month, some spooky mail, if you will, through there. You also get access to the Susto Google Docs, which has any of the links that I use for each show and the script actually that I follow for the story of the show. So just some I think it's really interesting, like insight into how the show works, or like what my research is if you want to continue with it, and if you want to look further into those things, because I don't always go through everything that's on those links. So if you want to dive deeper into that, you can that way. And finally, the top tier, which is Best Ghoul Friends, that one, I'm so excited for that. So with that one, you get the first 2 tiers, you get all those benefits. And then once or twice a month, I'll be doing a live hangout. I'm still trying to figure that out. So if you're in that tier right now, and if you have any ideas of stuff that you would like to do, like if you want to see like what kind of live stream you want, let me know and I will make that happen. Yeah, once you become part of that tier, you get, I'll take your ideas and we'll do, whatever y'all are down for. You also get access to Susto vlogs. You get access to the Susto Discord, which I've just set up. So that should be active, and I'll be then adding you all to that. And then you also get a special Susto holographic sticker. I just got that actually. They look so good. If you're not in the top tier, I'm sorry, you won't be getting that. That's the only way you can get that one. You can't buy it, but I'll post a picture or a video of it or something so that you can see what it looks like, because it's really cute. And if you're into the top tier, the Best Ghoul Friends tier, I'm going to do my best to keep providing incentives for you all. I actually just found a really cool deal for acrylic pins, and it worked out. The timing, my mind, big witch energy. But I designed this cute little Susto planchette last night. So the day that I'm recording this is Tuesday. And I woke up today and I saw the company that I ordered the stickers from, they launched a deal for pins today. So I ordered a bunch of them. So just a heads up, you get cute little benefits for being a Best Ghoul Friend. So I've already taken up enough of your time with the patron. As always, please make sure to leave a 5-star review on the show. You can leave your scary story in the review. You can also email it to me, sustopodcast@gmail.com. You can also send that to the social medias. Again, make sure that you're following that. Yeah, I'm also going to be recording a Susto vlog pretty soon, which again, you'll have access to that in the Best Ghoul Friends tier. That's the $10 a month tier. So we're going to dive into the show. So today I'm going to be talking about Stigmata, and I'm going to be talking about one person's encounter specifically. This person has one of the most heavily studied instances of Stigmata. So it was really interesting to see all the different perspectives that were written about, because there's been books written about this person. And I mean, of course, I haven't read the books, but I'm doing as much as like diving as I can. And so make sure that you stick around after the story so that we can hear more of that context. But for now, we're going to get into Stigmata and the story of Therese Newman. Therese Newman was born in 1898 in Konnersreuth, Bavaria, and was the oldest of 10 children. Being the eldest child, she was often put in charge of taking care of her siblings, especially after her father was called to serve in World War I, but taking care of children was not her first calling. Therese's true ambition was to become a missionary sister in Africa. Sadly, in 1918, she was injured during a barn fire, causing her to suffer partial paralysis of the spine and later blindness. The formerly hardy girl was left bedridden and unable to work. Since she couldn't work, she took up the next best thing, intense religious devotion. Therese was especially enamored with Saint Therese of Lisieux. While lying in her bed on May 17, 1925, Therese heard the voice of who she claimed was the newly canonized Saint Therese of Lisieux. She asked her if she wanted to be better, and Therese, of course, answered, yes. The saint told her she could now stand and see, but that she would still suffer, and suffer she did, because Therese was about to get the shock of her life and receive the stigmata. For Christians and Roman Catholics, stigmata refers to mysterious wounds like those suffered by Jesus Christ during crucifixion. It comes from the Greek word for mark or brand, and in St. Paul's letter to the Galatians, where he writes, I bear on my body the marks of Jesus. The people who suffer such wounds on their hands, wrist, feet, forehead, and elsewhere are called stigmatics or stigmatists. The first recorded stigmatic was St. Francis of Assisi. But, over time, many others have manifested this so-called divine suffering. While insiders view such wounds as holy, outsiders often see their behavior as hysteria. Others may view stigmata as a holy possession. It is said that while the afflicted is open to receiving messages and visitations from holy spirits, they are also just as open to demonic forces. On the first day of Lent in 1926, while ill with the flu, Therese was alone in her room when she experienced divine ecstasy. Religious ecstasy is a type of altered state of consciousness characterized by greatly reduced external awareness and expanded interior mental and spiritual awareness, frequently accompanied by visions and emotional and sometimes physical euphoria. As the day went on, she discovered bloody marks on her nightgown on her side and above her heart. The stigmata had chosen her. The side wound continually wept blood, and on the third day of Lent, the hand wounds appeared, followed by tears of blood the next day. Saint Therese of Lisieux said she'd suffer, and it did not stop there. Later in the year, Newman finally received her bloody crown of thorns. The wounds never healed, and they stayed on Therese's body until her death. Dealing with the stigmata is bad enough, but Saint Therese of Lisieux came to Newman once more during her suffering and told her, no more earthly food. You'll survive on the Eucharist alone. It is claimed that after this, Therese didn't eat anything other than the Holy Eucharist every day and drank no water from 1926 onward. Given that Therese lived until 1962, it is assumed she suffered bloody, in hunger, and in pain, day after day for decades. I have a lot of feelings in general, but also about this story. So we're just jumping straight into it. But when I was reading her story, before I read like anything else about like context or background or the possibility of a hoax, which we'll get into, when I was reading this, I was like, this is terrible. This is so terrible. Again, as always on this show, this is purely my opinion and my personal beliefs. I'm not telling you that you have to think like me or that you're wrong if you don't, but I will say that generally I am always right. No, I'm kidding. I feel, me personally, on my show, that I felt like this wasn't okay. You know, like if you're, so Stigmata, as I mentioned, as I was reading the story, it's seen as like a blessing, you know, like if someone experiences Stigmata, they are being blessed with like a gift, because the idea is that it like, basically you're like leveling up and you're closer to Christ because you're experiencing the wounds that Christ experienced during the crucifixion. And so that's supposed to be like, you know, you're closer to God in that sense because you're going through the same things that Jesus did, allegedly. And so I understand that. Like I knew what Stigmata was. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that movie from, I think it's from like the 90s, but the movie called Stigmata. I love that movie. Something about like 90s rave music and fashion. But on top of that, the story that they were able to tell with that movie was really interesting. And so that's actually why I'm doing this episode, is because I saw that movie and I was like, I want to know more about this because I only know like pretty much what I've seen from the movie. But either way, yeah, it's supposed to be like this holy thing. It's like a blessing and like it's a gift that's given to you. But Therese, I feel like she just suffered, you know, like she already had a hard life. You know, she wasn't able to grow up and do what is said to have been her ambition, her dream, which again, my opinions, I think missionaries are trash. I don't think that we should be further colonizing other people, like the people in the Amazon right now that some missionaries are trying to reach and like share the word of the Lord with them. Like leave them alone, especially in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Leave people alone. But, you know, it's sad to think, you know, this little girl didn't get to grow up and do what she wanted to do. And of course, as a lot of women in big families are forced to do, typically the older of the siblings, she was pigeonholed essentially into this role of like, you have to act as a caretaker for your siblings now. That, and then she also suffered an accident, which I'm not sure if I mentioned in the story, but in one of the links that I found, which will be in the Google Doc if you have access on Patreon, was that she fell off a stool during a barn fire, and that's how she got like her paralysis. And then I'm not sure where, but then the blindness came in. So then on top of like that, she gets stigmata, which I'm sure like for, you know, people of the faith, like, you know, they'll see it as a blessing, but it's got to be scary, you know, like it's like unexplainable wounds. Like this is their explanation, yes, but like physically you don't know like how it's happening to your body. You're chalking it all up to faith, which is fine, but I feel like it would still be like scary either way. And then on top of that, the saint that she had been praying to comes and tells her like, I'm gonna heal you, but okay, you have to get the stigmata. And then not only that, you know, you have stigmata, also you can no longer have earthly food. And so she was only able to survive off, and this is where we'll start to get into the hoax, is that she was only able to consume the Eucharist, which is, as I understand it, is the body and the blood of Christ, and which is usually the wafer, the cracker, and the wine. But for her story, she just had like the wafer, right? And no water for decades. This is from 1926 to 1962. Yeah, that like, how is that possible? As I was looking more into this, and even just a quick Google search of her name, you'll pull up a bunch of different things. But essentially they said that she died after a cardiac arrest. So she had heart issues, apparently, is like what's like accepted as like fact. Like that's what's on the documents. But also the Catholic Church has neither confirmed nor denied that she starved to death, which would be that she survived on the Eucharist alone. So they can't say that, yes, she survived on the Eucharist alone and she happened to die from cardiac arrest, but they also can't say that like surviving on the Eucharist alone, like that's what killed her. And there's also been talk about her actually, like that she was never actually blind, because when they did examinations on her eyes, that her pupils reacted to the light. And that's how I'm not a doctor, but from what I picked up from reading, is that's how they decided, or that's how they can tell if someone is in fact able to see or not, if if their eyes dilate with a light. And so they're saying that like if she couldn't see, like it was a psychological block, which I again don't know how that works. Not a brain doctor. And I'm gonna put some of these links in the Google Doc so that you can go through that as well and get like really into like the nitty gritty of it. But there's also these pictures of her, and you can see the picture on the Instagram of her sitting in, it looks like a bed with like blood all over her and blood coming out of her eyes. But then when they were trying to examine her, a doctor was trying to examine her, and it was multiple doctors, they would say that she would like they would be asked to leave the room, and then like as soon as they left, that's when like the wounds would weep blood again. And so they were like, oh, so you have stigmata, but only when no one's watching. Which, like, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be like, you're faking it for attention. It only happens when no one's around. But the fact of the matter is that it was only happening when no one was around. So what is the truth? Let me see. I'm checking here on this link. It says Stigmata, Teresa Newman, fake or real. And I'm going to read through this one page, and I'll put the link on the Google Doc for patrons as well. It says the stigmata represents the wounds that Christ had on his body after he was crucified that appears on someone. They include the wounds from the thorns embedded into his head as a crown. One of those cases is the story of Therese Newman, who was born on April 8th, 1898. I wonder what her zodiac sign is. What's April? Oh my God, is she an Aries? Oh, she's an Aries. Okay, this all makes sense now. Sorry if you're an Aries, but I'm just kidding. Not all Aries people are the same. Just most of you. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so it says that she was said to be a very healthy child, very strong in her abilities. She worked very hard on the land that she lived as well. She loved outdoors. And then again, horrible accident happened on her uncle's farm. Changed her life forever. Again, as the story went, she claimed to have heard the voice on May 25th of the then canonized Therese Lisieux, which canonized means that someone's just like, they're recognized as a saint. And there's like a whole process for that too. It's really interesting. That led her to being able to walk again. So when was this accident actually? Okay, so it says that her accident was in 1918. 1925 is when she was able to walk again. So 7 years she was presumed to be paralyzed. So I'm wondering if there's any like official documentation about that. I don't know how to look at medical records, but if you do and you're able to find any documentation on Therese Newman and her injury, that would be really interesting to like compare to. Yeah, here it says one of the biggest claims of Therese Newman is that she hadn't eaten or drank any water for over 40 years up until her death, a claim that most would find to be a little far-fetched, as one knows that we as humans cannot survive without food or water. It takes a few weeks, about 3 weeks, to succumb to the effects of not eating, but we all know it is much sooner for water, which is at least a week and the most 10 days, as 60% of our body is made up of water. See, I could have like maybe understood if it was just like just the Eucharist, like just the Jesus cracker and water, and that's it. I could maybe believe that, even though you can't get all the nutrients that you need as like a person on crackers alone, but no water, like that's it seems impossible. But that's the thing about, you know, holy miracles, and when we get into this world is, you know, like it doesn't need to be possible. You don't need to be able to explain it. You just need to have faith. And so, and again, I don't want to trample on anyone's beliefs, even though I have my own issues with like the Catholic Church as an organization, but I'm not going to tell you, no, you're a fool, because I also have my own beliefs. So it says that Therese Newman's stigmata is known in the world of the mystics of the church, and in 2005, beatification and canonization of her began. But it should be known that the Catholic Church neither supports or denies Therese's stigmata, unlike her predecessors, Padre Pio. So yeah, there's been other like really famous cases. That's interesting. So even though the Catholic Church hasn't taken like a positive stance, like they've like fully like been like, yes, she suffered stigmata, she's been beatified, which means that it's like someone that's recognized through the church that you can pray to, but not yet a saint. And then they started the process of canonization, which means like, yes, you can pray to her. The church recognizes her as a spirit that like you can reach out to, but she's not a saint yet. But they started the process. I wonder if they ever finished that. But it's interesting that the church didn't, like, they would do that, but not recognize her stigmata. So I'm wondering, maybe because she was healed of her paralyzation, and so like they're like, okay, this person's been touched, so you can pray to them. I don't know. It also says here, prior to her stigmata, Therese Newman had experienced some unexplainable occurrences, one of them being that she bled from her eyes, but neither herself or her doctor had much concern about it. What? How are you? Okay, her as like a devout believer, of course she's like, oh yeah, it's just a stigmata bleeding from my eyes. But the doctor, I want to see this doctor's license. I want to speak to this doctor's manager. They're going to be like, my manager's Jesus. Nice try. That's really weird that the doctor just, they wouldn't have much concern. Yeah, she's bleeding. It's fine. Also, she did have some contradictions that were witnessed or heard by individuals who visited her to document and examine the claims of stigmata. Some of those claims included she never had previous knowledge about the stigmata or what it pertained, although she had read different books to the contrary, that she contemplated the suffering of Christ prior to her healing, which in fact she had proclaimed to some that she hadn't. The wounds on her hands kept changing in size. Well, okay, so even reading that confused me a little. So I can understand why people were like, what are you talking about? But the fact that the wounds on her hands kept changing in size. One time it was bigger, the other time it was smaller. The wounds on her head that she claimed bled continuously, although the cloth she had around her head did not portray the effects of a continuously bleeding wound, but instead only spots on were thorns. No evidence of wounds on said head, even when doctors observed her during particular examinations, and many more that can be read in the lengthy article, The Swindle of Connorsroyd. See, so that's wild to me. That so me just reading through all of this, I'm like, why did anyone believe her? I don't believe it. I don't believe that she was quote unquote blessed with stigmata. Personally, I'm not buying it. So I'm like, but I'm trying to be like, why did they believe her? Like, the only thing that I can think of that people were like still like believing was the bleeding from the eyes and the fact that she was able to walk again, because it was accepted for like 7 years that she was paralyzed and she could walk again. So that to me, of course, like I'm like, yeah, like I can't explain that. But then like all of this other stuff where like the story doesn't seem to be straight at all is confusing. It's super confusing to me. And so this person finishes off this article or this page by saying, personally, I do not believe that Therese Newman experiences stigmata. Same. With the church not acknowledging it as one of the many cases of the stigmata, I think it is suffice to say that neither do they. But that's the thing, is they also haven't spoken out against it. I don't know. Maybe they're just like maybe it's enough for them to be like, if the church doesn't outright agree with it, then it's false. But I would expect them to like take the responsibility and be like, no, this is full on, like, we're not accepting that this was the case. Like it wasn't. But maybe they also think like, it's not up to them to make that decision. I don't know. I'm trying to think from like a perspective of a believer as much as I can. This person says, as a Catholic by baptism, but a believer by faith, I prefer cases of authenticity that bring us closer to the supreme rather than those that have holes in it. That's funny. I don't know if that's supposed to be a pun, but it's maybe in poor taste considering Jesus and crucifixion. It says, big enough to fit a VW in. I'm not sure if I believe in the whole phenomena of stigmata, but I personally do not need it to continue with my faith in God, aka the Supreme. And that's nice. Okay, so this is really nice. This is going in the Google Docs if you want to see. I'm just confused because I don't understand how other people are believing her. So another thing that I forgot where I saw it. It might be one of the links that I put in the doc, but I'm not exactly sure. But something I did see that I thought was kind of creepy to think about is that, so someone explained stigmata as you basically become like a radio. And this is supposed to be like a blessed experience, and it's supposed to be something that brings you closer to like Christ and God, and like it elevates you spiritually. But because it elevates you and because you're still human, what it does essentially is like it opens you up, like it opens your spirit up, it opens your soul up, so that you can receive, messages and like visions of Christ and the saints and all that good holy stuff. But again, because you're essentially functioning as like a radio, you're putting out like a radio wave, I guess, or the closest I can compare it to is like astral projection. Like if you open yourself up in that way, you're open to everything and anything. And so it's seen, and I put this phrase in there in the story on purpose, that it's kind of like a holy possession, because essentially Christ is taking over your body and giving you the wounds that Christ suffered. That sounds like a possession, like when a demon possesses somebody. I'm not calling Jesus a demon. I'm just saying when a demon possesses somebody, it can like, it inflicts mysterious wounds on them. And so this is like a holy possession. That's why I'm saying like, it would still freak me out, because if I started getting wounds, my immediate thought wouldn't be like, oh, Jesus is blessing me, I'd be like, there, demon, get out, be gone. Like, what do I do? And so that was really freaky to me that someone made that comparison. They're like, it's a holy possession essentially, and you're open, yes, to the good, and typically the good, but also the devil is around, and they're going to try and take advantage of this openness that you're experiencing. Oh, so this is interesting. Okay, so I think this is part of why she was beatified, and then they started the process of her canonization, and why the church does recognize her as like a holy being. But so it says on this one page, again, this will be in the Google Docs for the patrons, but it says, Therese was given many visions of our Lord, and she also was shown many details of the earthly life of our Lord from his birth until his resurrection. She was often visited by our Blessed Mother, the saints and angels. It is common knowledge to many who visited Connersreuth that Therese always recognized priests as priests, which to me, I was like, I mean, they're always like, they're wearing, you know, they have like an outfit, so of course you can tell. But this continues. This was a particularly mysterious phenomenon which baffled many visitors. One day, a man dressed in the formal attire of a bishop came to Connersreuth and visited Father Nabir, N-A-B-E-R, and Therese. The father was very cordial to him, and he, as he always was, it was a nice guy apparently. But when Therese came into the room, she immediately recognized that this was not a man with consecrated hands. She robustly turned him about in no uncertain terms, telling him to get out and stay out, saying, "You imposter." This is the interesting part. It was later reported to the parish that this man was arrested by the police as a con man who wanted to collect money under false pretenses. So that's a pretty interesting, like, I wouldn't think like, oh, there's people out there pretending to be priests, but there's people out there doing lots of messed up stuff. So she was able to sniff out, you know, which ones were real just by like being around them. That's interesting. And it's said that she has had like other mystical gifts. She had other mystical gifts. This one says that a priest asked her once, "Is it also true that you can feel when a visitor has received Holy Communion?" "Yes," she said, "but only within a certain length of time." Once while Teresa was in ecstasy, a Benedictine priest came to the Newman home and the company of visitors. It says essentially that she said that the crucifix that he was wearing around his neck, that it was identified as a true particle from the lower section of the cross, like where the actual cross that Jesus was crucified on. And she like pointed it out to him. It says also that she touched some relic in Italy, and that she immediately like had a vision of the saint, and she named the saint Contardo Ferrini, who apparently was not known at all in Germany, and whose connection with the Holy Father was known only by a few trusted people. So she had like insider knowledge about important figures in the church that nobody else knew. And there, it says that there's a bunch of other ones. So again, this is going to be in the Google Doc for the patrons if you want to check that out. Again, thank you all for bearing with me. Again, this is something I feel like that we're all like, a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us who were part of the Latinx culture are from like Catholic families, Roman Catholic families, and Stigmata is something that you may or may not have heard of before. I definitely remember hearing about it before and then seeing that movie when I was a kid, essentially, which I don't know what business I had watching that movie when I was a kid, but that tells you a lot about who I am as a person now. But yeah, I think that's something that many of us have thought about and were like creeped out about. And so I wanted to, like I said, I saw that movie a few weeks ago and I was like, I want to do an episode on this. I think it's cool. Yeah, again, thanks for joining me on that. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, as always, please make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I am working on getting the show listed on as many platforms as possible. So if you know of someone that cannot listen to the show for whatever reason, please let me know and I will work to get it to them on whatever platform they use. Again, please make sure to check out the Patreon. That's patreon.com/SustoPodcast. I have really, really, really cool stuff in the works. Like I'm probably going to have like exclusive merchandise that's only for patrons in the future. I really want to, like I said earlier, create incentives for y'all to stay, and not something that's always going to be you having to buy something. You know, like if you're a patron, you're getting the free holographic sticker for the top tier. I'm working on those pins there. It's like a Halloween edition pin that's going to be coming out. Don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but super excited because it's really cute, and I'll probably post a picture of it on the Instagram as well. So make sure that you're following social media for Susto. That's Susto Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can also leave your stories, recordings, videos, what have you on there, and I can share them on the show. So yeah, I hope you all have a good day, and I will see you in your dream. No, I'm just kidding. Bye.